Good morning. This is Reverend Ann Bowden. I'm a spiritual counselor and a soul collage facilitator. Today I'm hosting the very first conversations with Wise Women Sharing. So glad you could join us today. I'm here with Antoinette Cresci de la Torre, a shamanic practitioner, a dance artist, and a licensed acupressure therapist. Our other guest is Wanda K. Whitaker, a certified hypnotherapist, a visionary artist, and a spiritual coach. We're really tickled to have you with us today. We know that people are experiencing a lot of strange and difficult energy these days with chaos. A lot of people are having physical, maybe even mental challenges, financial challenges. And what we're going to be talking about today will be addressing some of these stresses that we have. So let me just say that this particular interview or conversation is definitely leading us to an event that's going to be taking place in May, and that will be called Ancestral Healing through Mask Making and Epigenetics. And it will be here in Pacifica. So today I'm going to go ahead and start with talking with Wanda. Wanda, again, an artist, a hypnotherapist, and she is an incredible artist. In fact, her Buddhas are quite well known throughout our community here in Pacifica. So, Wanda, what exactly is epigenetics?
Sure, I'd be happy to share with you. First of all, epigenetics is the study of the changes in gene expression due to environmental and lifestyle influences, but do not involve changes in the DNA structure. Epi actually means above or on top of the cell membrane, and genetics pertains to the DNA and the nucleus of the cell, which is in each individual cell in our bodies. Therefore, epigenetics is the control or influence of DNA from above or outside of the gene. And what this really means is that genes do not control our biology or traits. However, the environment around and above the genes and the perceptions of the environment do. So when DNA and the genome were first discovered, it was assumed that the genes were self-actualizing and determined our physical, emotional, and behavioral characteristics for the rest of our lives. And the old story, we were victims of our genome. Because of epigenetics, however, researchers have found that genes do not turn on and off. They are just blueprints. And in order to engage the blueprint, it takes a contractor to read the blueprint and control it. Epigenetics demonstrates how environmental factors selects the genes and can modify the readout of the genes. I think it was in 1953 when Francis Crick and James Watson so-called discovered the DNA structure. Actually, it wasn't them who discovered it. It was a woman, chemist by the name of Rosalind Franklin, who discovered the double helix structure of DNA. I do want to mention her because she never received the credit that she should have received, because they never mentioned her when they won several science awards. At any extent, they assumed that the brain of the cell directed the proteins to make what was encapsulated in the DNA. And later, scientists discovered that the brain of the cell was its skin, the cell membrane. And through the work of cell biologist Bruce Lipton, we understand how environmental factors can change DNA instruction. In fact, he placed a muscle stem cell in a different environment. And depending on the environment, the cell would alter. In one case, the muscle cell became a bone cell. And in the book Molecules of Emotion, I don't know if you know of this woman scientist by the name of Candace Pert, along with Bruce Lipton in the book Biology of Belief, they write about receptor proteins on top of the cell membrane that affect and cause a chemical reaction for a gene to be expressed. And these signals come from the environmental conditions. So in essence, for each gene in each cell, there will be differing levels of expression according to the conditions around the cell. Signals received at the cell surface membrane and the specific cell type, and that's determined during the development of the embryo. It is through this process that the function of morphology of the cell is unique. That's the way the cell is formed. It can be formed into any particular tissue or any particular organ, depending upon the vibration, which I will explain a little later. But there are many case studies that demonstrate the impact of epigenetics. For instance, it is now known that a mother's environment during pregnancy can alter the expression of DNA in ways that are passed on to future generations. The chemistry of emotion is in the cells of the mother's blood. So the mother's perception about what's going on is transferred to the fetus. Whatever the mother is experiencing, so is the child. If the mother is angry or under stress, it changes the physiology of the fetus as it's developing. And the child will have a bigger, stronger body, arms and legs, and may come out as a street fighter or a great athlete. And at the end of the day, the attitudes, beliefs, and emotions, both parents, influence the child. Another example is women who were pregnant during a 1944 famine in the Netherlands known as the Dutch Hunger Winter. They had children and grandchildren who were unusually small or prone to diabetes and obesity. And animal studies have found that a stress to a parent, such as exposing a pregnant mouse to toxic chemicals, or mildly shocking a mouse father to make it fear an odor, can result in effects such as infertility or changes in behavior that persist for 2 generations or more. In the case of identical twins, one twin, they both have identical DNA, right? One twin may come down with a disease such as cancer, and the other twin doesn't. Years later, the twin that has cancer has been exposed to environmental toxins, and the other one hasn't. She may be located in a different urban area, and so she's not faced with those environmental changes that cause the changes in the expression of the genes.
Wow.
So it's very interesting, epigenetics, and the new findings help us to manage our lives and actually control how our genes are being expressed.
This is just amazing because it's who knew that we would be so influenced by so many things. I mean, I know that psychologists and whatnot have looked at the person and how they deal with their life and whatnot, and this just adds another dimension to it, doesn't it?
It sure does. And it's exciting.
It is. Now, I understand that you and Antoinette will be hosting a fantastic event coming up in May, and maybe you and Antoinette can tell me a little bit more about that, about this mask making and how the epigenetics marries with this ancestral healing, because it just sounds fascinating. Well, right now I'm going to introduce Antoinette. Antoinette, welcome. I'm so glad you're here with Wanda and I.
Anne, thank you for having me, first of all. I'm really looking forward to working with Wanda on this. It's going to be very exciting. To answer your question, what is shamanism? Shamanism, the word shamanism, is actually a controversial word right now. I actually attended a conference this fall, and the topic of the conference was the use of the word shamanism. Shaman comes from the Tungus people of Siberia, that word. And so that is actually a word to describe, it means medicine person or healer in the Tungus language. That word has been adopted by the West to become a universal word in the West to describe a spiritual healer. Shamanism is the practice of communicating with highly evolved, benevolent spirits in non-ordinary reality for the purpose of healing and problem solving. Michael Harner describes shamanism. Michael Harner is an anthropologist who's in his 80s now, who was the main person to bring shamanism to the West back in the 60s. His description of shamanism, well, one of the many, is shamanism. He describes shamanism as a disciplined interaction with spirits in non-ordinary reality to help and heal others. So shamanism, I'm going to use the word because that's the word that people know. It's 30,000 years old. It is an ancient spiritual practice. And it is a practice that was very deeply integrated into traditional cultures. A shamanic practice is to be able to commune with helping spirits without the need of a priest or a holy person to do it for you. Everyone has access. We all have access to our spirit animals, to our guides, our angels, and we just need a disciplined way to do it. We need a map to follow. And so using shamanism in this mask-making process is a way to spiritually access our ancestors in this workshop. The way that Wanda is using science and numerology in an energetic way of accessing, I'm going to be merging with her and using a spiritual way to access. So you will be accessing your ancestors in many different ways. It's very, very deep. Very, very deep. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Antoinette. It sounds like you've had a lot of experience and training in this field, and I've actually experienced your work on me. So I know that I might not know in the thought process what is being done or what I'm being helped with, but I do know that I feel better when we do the work. So I want to thank you for that. So what would be the benefit? How long have you been using this process? I wanted to ask.
So the process of the mask-making process, is that what you're asking?
Yes, and actually your shamanistic work as well, kind of. I have seen some of your masks. They're just stunning, and I know that that's just going to be such a bounty for people to harvest when they go to take this workshop. But how long have you been doing this? I would say that shamanism has been a lifelong journey. I didn't have a word for it until about 10 years ago. I would, when I was a child, I would experience, I want to say voices, but it wasn't actual hearing voices. It was more thought transmission. And I asked my mother about it.
and she would say, it's your angels. Your angels are talking to you. I never really questioned her, but little snippets happened throughout my life like that. And about 10 years ago, I became a Reiki master, and that sort of sent me on a more disciplined journey of spirit and energy. And then I found the Foundation for Shamanic Studies. So I've been working with the Foundation and with the teachers there. I've actually had the honor of taking a class from Michael Harner himself. I worked intimately with his wife, Sandra. As far as the mask making introduction, that was with Kaleo Ching, who's a spiritual healer from Hawaiian tradition. So a lot of my prayers are in Hawaiian, and he's given me a lot of Hawaiian tradition. So I first had a class with him, I'd say it was 10, maybe even 11 years ago. I did my very first class with him, and it was a workshop to meet a healer or warrior. And I happened to meet both. So my mask has both. That very first mask made out of plaster Paris has both. Since then, I've embodied the spirits and helpers that I've come across in clay. And it's not just a one-time do a journey, make a mask. Some of these masks evolved over a year. And they are ways for me to go deep and have a relationship with those spirits on an ongoing basis. So when we make our ancestor masks, it's not going to be you come to the class, you do a journey, you make a mask, and it's over. That mask is your door to a relationship with that ancestor, to help heal and to learn about your gifts. Something that we don't do as a culture that's a lost practice is honoring the ancestors. Our ancestors send us forth with wounds and with gifts. And this is an exploration on how we can begin the process of healing and how we can learn to use the gifts we've been given.
Wow. Sounds like powerful work. Very deep work.
It is very powerful and very deep. And one of the other things about this ancestor work is, first let's get an idea exactly what an ancestor is. Our relatives are people that are still living, but those that have crossed over are our ancestors. We have our blood DNA ancestors, which Wanda is going to be working with, but we also have soul ancestors. And what is a soul ancestor? What on earth is that? I think a lot of people might have a question about that. A soul ancestor could be an ancestor from a past life, from another lifetime. A soul ancestor could be a geographical ancestor, maybe from the land. Or, it could be... So here's an interesting concept. Let's say you go on a European tour, or you go to Africa on safari, you take a vacation, you go to Thailand, and you arrive and you put your feet on the ground and you realize that you have a connection with that land. It's completely out of the blue, you think. But is it? Is it out of the blue? Maybe you have a soul connection with that land. It could be a soul connection from an ancestor that's in your DNA that maybe traveled there, or it could be a soul connection from a past life ancestor. It's really interesting. it makes you realize that we are all related.
That is what is so important for us to know, is that we all really are connected.
We're connected not only to other humans. We're connected to the animal life. We're connected to the trees. We are connected to the rocks. We're connected to the stars, the creepy crawlers, the winged ones. So when you take this journey, I recently did a journey at this workshop with a few teenagers, and one of the teenagers was a little confused after her journey. And I pulled her aside and we had a little conversation, and she said to me, well, I'm a little confused because I didn't meet somebody from my culture. She's of Norwegian descent, and she met somebody from a completely different area of the world.
Marvelous.
It was, and I said, that is a true journey when you come back surprised. You did not make it up.
Oh, this is just...
You did not make it up.
This is so exciting. What benefits, Antoinette, and what from participating in your workshop that's coming up, and what should somebody expect? What would be the benefits, and what's their expectation?
Oh, the benefits. There are many benefits. Let me just say that a little bit of the process to help you understand what the benefits are. So through moving meditation or qigong or dance meditation, however you want to call it, I use moving meditation because when one moves into the subconscious and the inner terrain with their body, they are activating cells in their body. They're activating on a cellular level. It's not just in the mind. It's in the mind, it's in the body, and it's in the spirit. And so that is something that we will be doing to prepare for the journeys. And then through guided journeying, we will be moving into non-ordinary reality to meet an ancestor. So if you look historically at Taoists, shamans, healers, artists, they have long used hypnosis, music, movement, meditation, and art as ways of channeling or accessing spirit. When you learn to do this, you have the ability to change your reality. You have the ability to not only change the DNA for physical ailments, but to change your thought process and your ability to manifest. Once you have healed a past trauma, you're able to move forward in a more conducive way to happy living. We're here to be happy. We're not here to suffer. So going through this process, it gives you a tool to access your power, your inner power, and access the power of your ancestors they have sent us forth with missions, and they want to help us. But we can't access their help unless we ask. And you have to know how to ask.
So it sounds like you're going to do some type of journey and some physical dance or movement, I should say. And then when you go to make this mask, what kind of materials are you using, and how do you, just to give us a preview, what type of materials, and is this plaster, or what is this?
So we will be breaking up after the first journey, we will be breaking up into pairs. The participants will be partnering, and one person will be applying plaster of Paris to the other person's face. And the plaster is plaster strips.
Oh,
So it's kind of like the old-fashioned cast material. So we will be applying it to the face and massaging it to the face to activate those cells and bring forth the ancestor that you journeyed to meet. You'll be able to breathe. There's no need to worry about whether you can breathe. The nose holes will be left open, and you can leave the mouth open if you want. Most people decide they don't want to. And if you get a little claustrophobic, if you can't finish, that's okay too, because the whole idea is that I'm giving a foundational method and encouraging people to color outside the lines. So if your mask is not completed because you couldn't, that's okay too. That is part of the process, and that may be part of the healing. The idea is that you have a foundation and a map, but at the same time that you're coloring outside the lines. So you're having a yin-yang balance in this process. And this process can be used over and over again. After the second journey, then you will be painting, embellishing, gluing, putting poetry into. I have so many different supplies. I've got feathers and rocks and beads and paint and fabric and fur and leather, buttons, and you name it. It's wide open. So then you will be embellishing and bringing this mask to fruition, turning it into an actual being that's right here in the room with you, that you can use to access more help in the future.
Wow. This sounds extraordinary, and I know that I'm going to be participating in helping these two women with their workshop. And I want to thank both of them, Antoinette and Wanda. Now, Wanda, I understand that your portion in the beginning will be an event on the Friday night, and is that the 4th of May?
That's the 4th of May, but I do want to say why this work is so important today.
Oh, please do.
Because, the news story is we can control our biology, and we can change the readout of the genes. And we do this through our beliefs and perceptions and attitudes about life. Although we see and think that our bodies are physical and made out of physical particles, the new science of quantum physics teaches us that at the subatomic level, we are made of vibrational energy, and that is energy that vibrates in frequencies. So everything in the universe is made out of matter that vibrates and can be influenced by the invisible energy fields. And by using these energy fields and vibration rather than communicating with the body through physical chemistry, we can control our bodies. Energy is powerful and much more important than the physical realm. So this means that our minds, through thoughts and emotions, can control our gene expression. And it was Nikola Tesla, who I'm writing a book about, who said that if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. We have many beliefs that come from our ancestral lineage that affect us today. And the traumas they experience can affect us the same as they were affected, just as Antoinette has mentioned previously. We use some of the same survival strategies that they used. And to tell you a little bit about the process, I use a unique numerical mapping process I learned from Margaret and Steve Ruby of Possibilities DNA to identify beliefs that are not serving us, some of which come from our ancestral lineage. And I also identify what emotions and attitudes, what are called DNA ancestral patterns, we have ascertained that is the cause of a particular issue we may be having today, such as to survive I must fit in, or I must be loyal and dutiful, or I must keep others happy even at my own expense, or I must be needed. And there are various strategies our ancestors used in order to survive. And all of our beliefs and emotions have these vibrational patterns associated with them. This practice is also based upon two universal laws: the law of vibration, which states that everything in our universe, physical and non-physical, is made up of energy, which resonates and exists as a vibratory frequency or pattern, and the law of attraction, which simply states like energy attracts like energy at the same resonance. When you hit a tuning fork, for example, a second with the same tone will vibrate. So each assigned number in this mapping process takes on the vibration associated with it. I will ask you to give me a number from a range of numbers, and the first number you choose will match the outcome associated with that particular number. It will address a number of different things. We even tell you where a particular pattern is in the body, and depending on where it is, it could be causing discomfort or disease in the body.
Oh, I do want to ask one thing. Is there a price that I need to we could share with our listeners for this event, Wanda?
Well, there's an early bird price. It's $225 if you register before February the 28th. And afterwards, it is $275. And if you just want to come on Friday evening for the session that I'll be doing, which I'm calling a DNA Healing Salon with Numbers, that's just part of the epigenetics portion, it's $50.
Oh, that's a bargain. That is a bargain.
The early bird is February the 28th. Is that correct?
Is that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and the dates of this will be the May the 4th, 5th, and 6th. And as Wanda and Antoinette mentioned, that information will be available once you register on Eventbrite. You can go and look at our Facebook page for Wise Women Sharing. I want to thank you all for joining us today, and I look forward to meeting you in person. I'll see you at the mask making workshop. Take care. Bye-bye.